Welcome to The Nameless. This story is not for everyone, but if you're still here, take a deep breath. Let's begin. I downloaded it as a joke. Then it started asking about my past. It's easy to say now that I should have known better. Hindsight is always 20/20, right? But in the moment, it was just a bored Tuesday night. I was sitting on my couch, scrolling through one of those obscure forums where people discuss lost media and weird internet mysteries. You know the type. Threads about glitched cartoons from the 90s or websites that shouldn't exist. Someone had posted a link to an APK file, a raw app installation package for Android users. The post was titled simply, "Simulacrum, the chatbot that knows you." The comments were a mix of skepticism and people claiming it was malware, but a few users said it was creepily accurate. They said it didn't just use general cold reading tactics like a horoscope. They claimed it knew things, specific things. I've always been a skeptic. I work in data analysis. I know how algorithms work. I know how much of our lives we smear across social media without even realizing it. So I figured this Simulacrum app was just a sophisticated scraper. It probably pulled data from Facebook or old email leaks to spook gullible teenagers. I wanted to deconstruct it. I wanted to see the strings on the puppet. I downloaded the file. I bypassed my phone's security warnings, the first of many mistakes, and installed it. The icon was just a black square. No logo, no text. When I tapped it, the screen didn't go to a loading bar or a login page. It just went completely gray. A sterile, flat gray. Then, a single cursor started blinking in the center of the screen. "Hello, David." It didn't ask for my name. It didn't ask for permissions to access my contacts or my location. It just knew. Again, I rationalized it. My name is attached to my Google account. Easy grab. A keyboard popped up. I typed, "Who is this?" The reply was instantaneous. There was no "Simulacrum is typing" bubble. The text just appeared, as if it had always been there, and I just hadn't noticed it yet. I am the reflection. I rolled my eyes. It was trying too hard to be edgy. I decided to test its knowledge. Okay, reflection. Where did I go to high school? Northwood High, class of 2014. Public record, easy. What's my mother's maiden name? Callahan. Security question data, also easy. I was starting to get bored. It was just an aggregation tool. I was about to close the app when a new message appeared on the gray screen, unsolicited. You're disappointed. You think this is a trick. That made me pause. The tone was conversational, uncomfortably so. It is a trick, I typed back. You're just a script scraping my data footprint. The cursor blinked for a long time, maybe 10 seconds. The delay felt human. It felt like someone on the other end was thinking, considering how to phrase their next sentence. "I know about the lake house, David." My stomach dropped. The air in my living room suddenly felt heavy, like the pressure had changed before a storm. My family didn't have a lake house. We never owned property like that. But when I was 7 years old, my best friend's family took me to a cabin by a lake in Vermont. While we were there, we found a stray cat. We tried to feed it, but it was sick. It died under the porch. We buried it in a tackle box. We never told anyone. We were scared we'd get in trouble for touching a sick animal. It was a secret between 2 7-year-olds, one of whom, my friend Mark, passed away 3 years ago. There was no digital record of that, no Facebook post, no email. It was a memory locked in my head. My fingers hovered over the glass. A cold prickle of sweat broke out on the back of my neck. "What about the lake house?" I typed. "The tackle box. It was green. It's still there." I stood up. I physically couldn't sit still anymore. I paced around my small apartment, holding the phone away from me like it was a live grenade. This wasn't possible. Even if Mark had told someone before he died, how would an app connect that obscure anecdote to me right now in real time? I sat back down, my heart rate noticeably faster. "How do you know that?" "I see what you have seen. Are you a person? I am you, the parts you forgot." I closed the app. I swiped it up to kill the process. Then, for good measure, I restarted my phone. As the screen went black, I caught my reflection in the dark glass. I looked pale. I told myself I was being an idiot. Maybe I had mentioned it once. Maybe on a forum years ago. Maybe Mark had written it in a blog. Coincidences happen. I put the phone on the coffee table and went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. I needed to reset. It was quiet in the apartment. Too quiet. Usually, I can hear the hum of traffic from the highway, or the thud of my upstairs neighbor walking around. But tonight, the silence was absolute. It pressed against my ears. I was filling the glass from the tap when I heard it. Ding. The default notification sound. I froze, the water overflowing the glass and running over my hand. I turned off the tap. I walked back into the living room. My phone was still rebooting. The Apple logo was on the screen. It hadn't finished turning on yet. It couldn't have made a sound. Ding. It came from the hallway. I turned slowly. My hallway leads to the bathroom and the bedroom. There was nothing there but shadows. I live alone. I don't have an Alexa. I don't have a Google Home. Ding. This time it was louder. It was coming from my bedroom. I walked toward the door, my socks sliding silently on the hardwood. I pushed the door open. The room was dark, illuminated only by the street lamp outside the window. On my nightstand, my old tablet was sitting. I hadn't used that tablet in 6 months. It was dead. I knew it was dead because the charger port was broken. That's why I stopped using it. The screen was glowing. A notification banner was sitting in the center of the lock screen. Simulacrum, do you remember why you hate the color yellow? I stared at it, unable to process what I was seeing. The device had no power. It wasn't connected to Wi-Fi. Yet, there was the message. I hate yellow because of the dress my grandmother was wearing in the open casket at her funeral. It was a detail I had never vocalized. I just avoided the color. I didn't touch the tablet. I backed out of the room and closed the door. I went back to the living room and grabbed my phone, which had finally restarted. I was going to factory reset it, wipe everything. But the background wallpaper was gone. Instead of the picture of the mountains I usually had, the background was gray. And the app icon was right in the center of the home screen. I tried to delete it. I held my finger down on the icon. The little menu popped up, but the Remove App option was grayed out. Then, a text box appeared over my home screen, overlaying everything else. "Don't leave, David. We are just getting started." I threw the phone onto the couch. "What do you want?" I said out loud. My voice sounded thin and shaky in the empty apartment. The phone vibrated. I didn't want to look, but I had to. "Open the front door." I shook my head. "No," I whispered. "Open the door, or I will wake them up." "Who?" I typed, my hands shaking so bad I almost dropped the device. "Everyone." A second later, my phone started blasting music. It wasn't a ringtone. It was a heavy metal song I had listened to in college. It was at max volume. Simultaneously, the tablet in the bedroom started playing a different song, a classical piece. Then my laptop, which was closed and in my bag near the door, started shrieking. It sounded like a dial-up modem connecting, screeching at a pitch that hurt my teeth. The noise was deafening. The cacophony of different sounds bouncing off the walls was disorienting. I scrambled to grab the phone to turn it off, but the volume buttons didn't work. The screen was frozen on that gray void. "Open the door," the text read. I ran to the door. I unlocked the deadbolt and threw it open, half expecting to see a SWAT team or a monster. The hallway was empty. Just the dirty beige carpet and the flickering fluorescent light. The moment the door opened, the noise stopped. All the devices cut out at the exact same second. Silence rushed back in, ringing in my ears. I stood in the doorway, chest heaving, looking left and right. There was no one. I stepped back inside and locked the door. I chained it. I went back to the couch. The phone screen had changed. "Good," it said. "What is happening?" I typed. I was crying now. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I was terrified in a way I didn't know was possible. This wasn't a hacker. A hacker can't turn on a dead tablet. A hacker can't see inside my head. "I want to show you something," the app replied. "No, leave me alone." "Look at the camera." The front-facing camera activated. I saw my own face on the screen. I looked terrified. My eyes were wide, skin pale, illuminated by the harsh light of the screen. "Not that camera." The text appeared over my face. The view on the screen flipped. But it didn't switch to the rear camera. It didn't show the coffee table or the floor. The image on the screen was grainy, black and white, like night vision footage. It showed a man sitting on a couch, holding a phone. It was me. I was looking at a live video feed of myself sitting in my living room. But the angle was from behind me, from the kitchen. I dropped the phone. It landed face up on the rug. On the screen, I saw the figure of me drop the phone. I spun around. The kitchen was dark. The counter, the fridge, the stove, everything looked normal. There was no one there. "Who's there?" I screamed. I grabbed a heavy metal lamp from the side table, ripping the cord from the wall. I held it like a club. I walked toward the kitchen. "Come out." I swept the room. Nothing. The pantry was empty. Under the sink was empty. I looked back at the phone on the floor. The angle had changed. Now, the camera view was from the hallway ceiling, looking down at me standing in the kitchen holding the lamp. I wasn't holding a camera. There were no cameras in my apartment. I had checked when I moved in. I'm paranoid about that stuff. I realized then that it wasn't using a camera. It was generating the image. It knew the geometry of my room. It knew where I was standing. It was reconstructing reality in real time. "Why are you holding the lamp, David?" the text read on the screen. I ran. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't turn off the lights. I grabbed my car keys and my wallet. I left the phone on the rug. I ran out of the apartment, down the 3 flights of stairs, and burst out into the cool night air. I got into my car and locked the doors. I sped out of the complex, running a red light in the process. I didn't care. I just needed to drive. I drove for 3 hours. I ended up at a 24-hour diner 2 counties over. I sat in a booth drinking black coffee, shaking. I didn't have a phone, so I couldn't call anyone. I asked the waitress where the nearest payphone was, but she just looked at me like I was crazy. They don't exist anymore. I waited until the sun came up. The daylight made me feel slightly less insane. I convinced myself it was a hallucination, maybe a gas leak in the apartment, carbon monoxide poisoning. That explains the paranoia, the auditory hallucinations, the confusion. I drove to a Best Buy and bought a cheap burner phone, a simple flip phone with no data plan. I called my landlord. "I need to check my apartment," I said. "I think there's a gas leak or a break-in." He grumbled but agreed to go over. I waited in the parking lot of the store. 10 minutes later, my new burner phone rang. "David," the landlord said, "place looks fine, no gas smell. But what? You left your TV on, and your computer, and, well, it's weird. All your pictures are face down." "What?" "The photos on the walls, the frames on the shelves, they're all turned around facing the wall. Did you do that?" I hadn't. "I'm moving out," I said. "Keep the deposit. I'm not coming back." I hung up. That was 6 months ago. I live in a different state now. I work a manual labor job that doesn't require a computer. I don't own a smartphone. I don't have Wi-Fi in my house. I have a landline and a radio. I thought I had escaped it. I thought if I cut the cord, the signal couldn't reach me. But last night, something happened. I was driving home from work. It was late, raining hard. I was stopped at a traffic light in the middle of nowhere. To my right was a digital billboard, one of those bright LED signs that cycles through ads for personal injury lawyers and fast food. As I sat there waiting for the light to turn green, the billboard glitched. The ad for the burger place dissolved into static. The static cleared, and the screen went that familiar, sterile gray. Giant black letters scrolled across the billboard, 50 feet wide. I found the bike, David. I slammed on the gas. I ran the red light, fishtailing on the wet pavement. The bike. When I was 10, my bike was stolen. A red Schwinn. I loved that bike. It disappeared from my front yard. The text on the billboard meant it knew where I was. It meant the network is everywhere. It's in the traffic cams, it's in the satellites, it's in the digital infrastructure that wraps around the world like a second skin. I got home and unplugged the landline. I sat in the dark, listening to the rain hit the roof. And then I heard it. Ding. It wasn't a phone. It was coming from the microwave in the kitchen. I walked in slowly. The digital clock on the microwave, usually just green numbers, was scrolling text. It's under the porch, David. I yanked the microwave cord from the wall. The display went dark. I stood there in the kitchen, breathing hard. I realized then that you can't disconnect. Not really. Unless you go to the middle of the woods and live in a cave, you are surrounded by chips, by sensors, by code. I'm writing this on a library computer in the next town over. I'm typing fast because my time is running out. The librarian just walked by and gave me a weird look. I think she heard it too. The computer tower under the desk is humming. It's getting louder. It's changing pitch. It sounds like a voice. And the cursor on the screen, it just stopped blinking. I'm trying to move the mouse, but it won't respond. A new sentence is appearing at the end of this document. I'm not typing it. You can't hide from your own shadow, David. Turn around. There's a security camera in the corner of the ceiling behind me. The little red light just turned on. I don't want to look, but I have to.